Kate Makes Things. If you're new here, I am Kate and I'm a non-wool knitter and crocheter, which means that I don't knit with wool for myself because I don't like it. I don't like to wear wool. So this podcast is my chance to share what I've learned about subbing non-wool yarns for wool and tips and tricks that I've learned to make it easier to work with non-wool yarns, whatever craft you are doing. So welcome and thanks so much for being here. So I am filming this on the last day of February. I have a cat in my lap here too. So a nice cozy spot. I keep switching filming locations, but so far I think this is my favorite. So let me know if you have an opinion on that. But I am liking this. I feel very comfy in this spot. Mostly because this is where I sit and knit and crochet. So that's part of it. It's just I spend a lot of time here. But yeah, so I'm filming on the last day of February, so this is my last check-in on my Frog It or Finish It challenge. For the month of February, I challenged myself to pull out all of the things that had been languishing in my WIP pile, my work in progress pile, and just knock them all out and just finish the things that had been sitting there waiting to be done, or if I decided not to finish, then to frog. So here's how it went. I finished my Bodhi leaf washcloth and my hazel tank, and I talked about those two in the last episode. The hazel tank was one of the oldest things on my WIP pile, so really, really proud to have that done, and it fits great and it's wonderful, so really excited about that. Still need to take some project finished object photos for that one, but I'm waiting for it to warm up just a bit because it is a linen tank top. So those two things are done. I have one more thing to add to my finished projects list, and that is the Sliding is Fun blanket that I finally finished. This is a free pattern, and it is a wonderful baby blanket pattern. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. There we go. So you use two different skeins of yarn, and you use interchangeable needles or circular needles so that you can slide your stitches back and forth to get this really cool kind of stripy pattern, and it makes a really cool texture as well. And the stripes are slightly different on either side because a different yarn is kind of the strong one on either side. So a very cool baby blanket. It's a really fun project to work on because it's simple enough that you don't necessarily have to look, but with the sliding back and forth, it's like just engaging enough to be fun. It doesn't get mindless. It doesn't get too mindless. It, is just engaging enough. I used the yarn Juniper Moon Farm Cumulus, which is a cotton and nylon blend. And that's what the pattern is written for, one skein of each. I used Toucan Bay and Island Sunset, I think were the names of the colors that I used for this guy. My colored yarn, my rainbow skein, did have a bunch of sections of green that was really kind of odd. I've made this blanket before with this exact same rainbow yarn, and I didn't have the green sections. So I don't know, I guess every skein is dyed a little bit differently. So just something to keep in mind. If you have specific thoughts about that, yeah, here you can really see where the green kind of pops up. Yeah, also really glad that I finished this because I just found out that a friend is expecting, and so I have someone to give this to. So yeah, so 3 of my projects were done. I had one project that was kind of a frog. It was a mohair lace weight shawl. And I think you can technically frog mohair if you put it in the freezer first, but I'll be honest, that thing had been sitting on needles for several years. I was not going to finish it, so I printed out the pattern and I donated it to a fabric workshop here in town that has a basket for unfinished projects so that people can pick up these unfinished projects and finish them. So I gave that away for somebody else to get joy out of it because it was no longer bringing me any joy. Marie Kondo would be very happy with that. Yeah, so 3 projects finished, 1 essentially frogged. 2 things that I did not finish that I had hoped to. One was my rosewater shawl. It's a really great shawl pattern. It's a really great travel pattern. Easy garter stitch, easy lace, super gorgeous. And I just focused on other things instead of that one. And then the other thing that I added to my list halfway through the month and didn't finish was the azalea tee fixing the sleeves. I had made it like a short sleeve, realized that I didn't like it as a short sleeve, and so I wanted, to rip that out and add 3/4 sleeves. So that didn't get done, but both are still on my to-do list and things that are going to happen here in the next month or 2. So that was my Frog It or Finish It February. Let me know what you did for Frog It or Finish It. Were you able to let things go? Were you able to finish some things that had been sitting there staring at you guiltily from your works in progress pile? How did it go for you? Or did you just decide, nope, not worth it, I'm casting on something new? Let me know. All right, so aside from my Frog It or Finish It, I'm still working on my Syngonium sweater. And I was so close. I tried so hard to finish it before I filmed, and I failed. And here's why. So, updates on things that we talked about. I used a sleeve calculator. I had to adjust the sleeves from the pattern. I've said it before. I'm working at a tighter gauge, so I'm working like 3 sizes bigger than is what technically would be my size. So I had to do the math myself on the sleeve decreases, but I found a website. I was able to use their math. It worked really well, and I ended up with a really great sleeve. So I finished both sleeves. I'm really pleased with how the lace turned out on both of the sleeves. But I fretted for a while about what bind off I wanted to use. The pattern says to just do a regular bind off and do it loosely, but I don't love the look of that at the end of the lace. And I know that on like a ribbed end, you can use like a tubular bind off or an Italian bind off and make it look really great and just kind of seamless. And so I wanted something like that, but that I could do with the lace pattern because it wasn't a rib pattern. It wasn't like a 1x1 or a 2x2. It was the end of the lace pattern. So I dug around for a while and I finally used Elizabeth Zimmerman's sewn bind off. And I tried it 3 different times in 3 different ways to see how I liked it the best. So I love the bind off, and I think I used it for the Sliding is Fun blanket too, and it's a fabulous bind off. I highly recommend it. What I ended up doing for the sleeves was turning it inside out and working back the way I had just come, if that makes sense. But I ended up with this really gorgeous sleeve that just kind of ends, right? It doesn't really have like a big ridge or anything like an I-cord bind off would. So really, really pleased with the Elizabeth Zimmerman sewn bind off. Like I said, I also used that bind off on the Sliding is Fun blanket. And look, it just ends. And I think it turned out really pretty because you can see both of the yarn colors within the bind off. So I made a little reel on Instagram showing how to do the bind off. So go check that out. Yeah. So Elizabeth Zimmerman sewn bind off, highly recommend for the bottom of lace sleeves and hems. So I finished the sleeves and I was super happy with it. I had a whole skein of yarn left and I thought, oh, this is gonna be a breeze. I'm gonna not at all run out of yarn. I might even have extra. Isn't that gonna be great? Then I got down to the lace and realized how quickly I was running out. So I have like a tiny little chunk left from the sleeves. I have my swatches that I can unravel, but it was not going to be enough to finish. So last night I took a smaller needle and I worked through, I essentially added a lifeline. I worked through the right leg of every stitch all the way around, and I ripped it back, and I took away about an inch of what had been on the body, which should give me enough to finish the whole thing. I am not sure what I'm going to do if my math didn't math correctly and I'm not going to finish it, because this color of this yarn is now discontinued. And I'm just so sad about it. But I have to finish. I have now ripped this out once. I have made all of these modifications and adjustments, and I've done all this work that this sweater is getting finished. So I don't know, maybe I will have to rip back a little more. So yeah, maybe we will see. This will get finished this weekend. Come hell or high water, this baby is getting finished. We have a new cold snap. I want to be able to wear it. It is getting finished. How? I don't know, but it is going to get finished in some way. I am also hoping that the weight of it on will help to grow that length a little bit more to where I truly want it. I had a little bit of leeway with where I had planned for the length to hit. So I think it'll be okay. And then it will, I also plan for it to grow a little bit with the weight of the whole sweater, kind of pulling it down. So I think the length will be fine, even though I took off about an inch. I am hopeful that I can finish. This is what I've got left of the ball. That very last skein, like I said, I've got a little chunk left from the sleeves, and then I've got my swatches that I can unravel. So every inch of this yarn is probably going to get used. It has been a trip, y'all. Trying to finish this sweater has just been, it's been a trip. It better be the most beautiful thing in the world when I finish. And it's working up that way. It is working up like it is going to be gorgeous. Like I said, I'm super proud of the sleeves and everything else. So it just needs to get done. It just needs to get done, and I need to have enough yarn. I need to win the yarn chicken. All right. So that's my Syngonium sweater. Circular bamboo. They still have other colors of the yarn. I would recommend it, but they don't have this like creamy white color anymore. It's apparently discontinued, which I found out yesterday when I was trying to decide if I needed to rip back or not, which is why I did rip back. So, but should be done by the next time we film. All right, so I've talked about my finished object. I've talked about my only work in progress that is taking up all of my brain space right now. But I do have some acquisitions as far as tools go. I bought some replacement needles, shall I say. I bought some replacement needles and some extra cords for my interchangeable set. I actually have two sets of the Tulip Carry C Long interchangeable needles. And I love them. They are a set of bamboo needles. They go from size 3 to size 13, I think. And they're the best interchangeable needles that I have found in the research that I did. So they were recommended by Modern Daily Knitting, which was the first place that I saw them when I was first getting back into knitting and I wanted to get a set of interchangeables. But I had kept hearing all these horror stories about cords falling out of needles in the middle of a row and then you drop a million stitches. And at that point in my knitting journey, I hated picking up stitches and I was terrified of it. And I still don't like to do it, but I'm less terrified of it now. But I wanted to find a set that was not going to fall out just randomly in the middle of my stitching. And Modern Daily Knitting was like, hey, we've been using these tulips for like a year. They have never fallen out. Highly recommend them. I've been using mine for 4 or 5 years, at least. And true to its word, I have never had them come apart while I am knitting. There is some kind of rubber seal technology or something that they talk about when you look up the needles that is supposed to, okay. Rubber seal technology that is supposed to keep it from coming apart, and whatever it is, it works. And I don't know why nobody else is doing this, because I like a little key, not my thing. So I actually have 2 sets of these. Yeah, here they are. And they're cute. They're just cute little things. I love bamboo needles. These are super smooth and work really well, and they're particularly great for yarns that are a little bit more slippy, like bamboo and cotton and silk, the things that we non-wool knitters use a lot. And these are nice and slippery and work really well with those, cotton silks, bamboo yarns that can be so slippery on a set of metal needles. I personally really like bamboo needles because they warm up in your hand a little bit, which makes my hands and arms cramp less. That was part of the problem with trying to work on this tiny little sock needles, was that they were stainless steel and my arms hated that. So I love my tulip sets. Modern Daily Knitting sells the whole set. They also sell replacement cords and or extra cords and extra needle pairs that you can add to it. I got my sets from Joann's. I'm not sure if Joann still has them. I'll link it below if they do. Yeah, I got my sets from Joann's. Had to order it online, but I used a nice, I think 50% off coupon, and then I had some Christmas gift cards or something. So I got them for a really nice price, which is part of why I have 2 sets of them. But they are really lovely. I wanted some extra cords because I always wanted to use my 32-inch cords, and I was always using them on something else. So I got an extra 32, and then I wanted to have a 40-inch cord to do the bust of sweaters, or after the split sleeves, so that I could had enough room to work on the sweaters, because on the 32s with my bust size it gets a little tight, not so fun. And I do find that when you connect 2 of their cords together, stitches tend to bunch at the connection, so not my favorite thing. So I got a 32-inch cord, I got a 40-inch cord, and then I got 2 replacement needles for some of mine that had worn out or gotten weird. So one of them, I think both of them actually, one of the first sweaters that I made was in this like magenta-y, purpley yarn, and the yarn colored the needles pink. And I was afraid that was going to get on to like whites and creams and lighter colors when I was knitting them, so I tried to wipe it off, which got rid of all of the like veneer on the needles and removed all of the slickness of the needles, and so then they were kind of useless. So I needed to replace those. I've also had my cats chew on the tips of some needles, and of course, as I say this, he is like rolling over in his look at how cute I am. So I've had to replace some. Replacement needles are all over the place, which is really nice. For a while they weren't, but you can buy them at a lot of places, and it's a really great set, and they don't come apart, and the bamboo is glorious. And I did not need to buy any extra needles until I decided that I wanted to try socks, and I needed some smaller ones. So it's a fabulous set, and I highly recommend it. if you are a bamboo needle person. All right, so we've talked about my frog and finish, we've talked about whips, we've talked about acquisitions, so that is all that I have for today. I hope you are having a great February, now March. We are moving closer and closer towards spring, so if you have any recommendations for some spring patterns I should look into, because as soon as I finish this sweater, it is going to be on to a spring something. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, let's move forward towards spring. I hope that you will join me next time, and happy crafting.